We're about 15 years detached from the last time that we saw an organization that even remotely rivaled the UFC. And since then, we've seen, one championship. For a while, it felt like they had the potential to do so because they, remember when the trade between DJ and Ben Askren happened. Well, at the time, one championship was kind of spitting out a lot of money, paying fighters pretty well to try to build a name for themselves. But they weren't extremely profitable, so they could only handle that for so long. I think there was one year where they spent like $500 million and only profited about like 30 million, which 30 million sounds like a lot of money, but you only need like one rainy day for that $30 million to become zero. That's not that those aren't very good numbers, okay? That's like investing $500 only to make $30 profit. You're gonna be like, yeah, I'm just gonna let me take it easy. This is kind of excessive, right? And then for a while, the PFL and Bellator merger felt like it was going to be that because two like mid-tier organizations joining and becoming one mega organization. And remember, they held like the champ versus champ fight, and that just like that felt huge and it was exciting. And Francis Ngannou joining them and kind of bringing in some new eyes, right? These things felt like they were investing a lot of money into these things, so it felt like there was a lot of potential there. And then we've seen that they've kind of it's only been downhill from there. So I think the PFL was actually better off before the merger, believe it or not. And same thing with Bellator, even though Bellator's not a thing anymore, but like they were better off as separate entities. And then here comes a man named Jake Paul. Jake Paul is hosting the MVP MMA fight on Netflix with Gina Carano, Amanda. What? No, what the fuck is her? Ronda Rousey. Why the fuck can I think of her name? Ronda Rousey, Francis Ngannou. You've got Nate Diaz on there. I mean, you've got some solid names. And this has the potential of being the highest viewed MMA fight I mean, not UFC, in MMA history because of just the naturally by the star power, and it's also on Netflix, right? So it's like, who doesn't have a Netflix subscription? So if it's a Saturday night, you're just gonna tune in. Why not? Right? Well, I think it's on Friday. I don't remember anymore. I say that to say Jake Paul is paying these people very well. So if he manages to successfully pull off this event where he pays the fighters well and profits, walks away profitable, this is the start of something huge because Jake Paul has vocalized that he wants to rival the UFC. He wants to be in competition with the UFC. And if there's any man crazy enough, but capable of doing this, it is Jake Paul. Say what you want about the man. When it comes to him being a pro fighter pay advocate, he has put his money where his mouth is. And that is one of the biggest problems in the UFC right now. They're not paying their fighters well. And let's be honest, since the pay-per-view model disappeared, there isn't an incentive to sell because the money is guaranteed. They're getting guaranteed money every year. So let's be honest, this year's kind of been lackluster with the UFC. We've had some solid fights, don't get me wrong, but we're already past the first quarter of the year and we have yet to see one real title defense. We have yet to see that. The BMF belt doesn't fucking count. So please do not fucking comment that because you're going to piss me off, all right? We have yet to see a real title defense. Fighters aren't getting paid well. And here comes Jake Paul hosting a really good MMA event. And I will be watching because I suspect that in the future, people are going to hear, ooh, there's an organization that's fresh, it's new on the scene with a lot of viewership, with a lot of good promotion, and they're paying well. I'm going over there with these guys because Jake Paul knows how to build a star. Jake Paul knows how to promote. The UFC does a horrible job of promoting. They don't really do a good job at. Don't get me wrong. A fighter should sell themselves, but the organization should see that. Oh, this guy's doing something. So let's add on to it. Let's build upon this. Um, Conor McGregor would have never been the superstar he is fighting in a regional scene. This happened through how likable he is, coupled with the UFC machine behind him. They stopped doing that. They're not promoting fighters, they're not promoting fights because they just expect us to consume. And we will because there really isn't a close number two. If MVP becomes a close number two and fighters are no longer renewing their contracts with the UFC and it's like, oh, I think I'm going to sign with MVP. Well, now the UFC is going to be forced to compete because there's no competition. Competition is good for the market because if I'm looking to sign a contract, well, this guy's offering me 50,000. Like, oh, they're offering you 50,000. Oh, let me offer you 80,000. Okay. Okay. And I'll tell the other guy, hey, this guy's offering me 80,000. Sorry, no, thank you. Oh, no, 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 look, look. I'll give you 100K. Like, there's negotiations. Who are you negotiating with? You're either going to make it to the UFC or not. You don't have an option. So I think that if Jake Paul succeeds, which we should all, as an MMA community, be rooting for, I think that this will be the best thing that's going to happen for the UFC because they will be forced to compete. They will be forced to improve because they no longer have a monopoly on the market. So if you didn't plan on watching the MVP event, you should. If you care about fighter pay, if you want to see the future of MMA where there's actual competition, you should tune in to Jake Paul's MVP MMA fight. I will be supporting, and I really look forward. And I am rooting for Jake Paul's success. I've been very critical of Jake Paul's things about him that I don't like, but I will admit the man, he's a man of his word. He puts his money where his mouth is, and I think that he can do big things, believe it or not. So I am excited, and I really hope you guys tune in because I most definitely will.